Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of GNN. Today is July 17th, 2024, and we have another banner night on our hands here. But before we get into the details of our brand new mobile suit, let's go over some news. Alright folks, the pre-6th year anniversary festival for Gundam Battle Operation 2 is still in effect. We have about 1 week left before we're actually officially into our 6th year, celebrating this long journey with Gundam Battle Operation 2. And for those of you guys that are uninitiated and new to the game, we have some things kicking off. We had the Full Armor Unicorn Gundam kicking off the whole event, as well as the lovely limited supply drop event that they had with basically the cool composite parts there, as well as the daily free supply drop for the month of July, which includes 4-star pulls. This does include dupes as well, but hey, if you just started off, this is really cool. We love free stuff. On top of that, we do have that limited special mission event going on with us now into the Char's Gelgu portion, so really neat stuff, as well as getting the really cool Gundam 45th anniversary logo that they have for a Gundam game. It's really neat. This is definitely some really cool stuff, kicking off the 45 years of Mobile Suit Gundam, GBO2 being part of that. Alright, so our main event is here, the Gundam Ez8 High Mobility Custom, a 2-star suit, which also happens to have a boosted supply drop notice. Just to kind of go into details, because it is kind of spoiled here already, and I usually save this until a little bit later. This is a 2-star 400 cost raid that's usable in grounded space. We'll get some more details, but because of that boosted supply drop, we do have that lovely half off. So if you do have some spare tokens that you feel like, well, giving it a try, it is a 2-star, but at the same time, you know, it's a very unique suit that I didn't even know it existed, and it's really cool looking just from the illustrations that I've seen. But half off, and then every step after that increases your chances as far as materials, other mobile suits that are 2-star and above. It does increase the drop rate probability during step 4, and then eventually, if you want to do all 5 steps, guaranteed, you get the High Mobility Custom Ez8. So pretty neat if you feel like sparing that. As I mentioned, we are 1 week away from anniversary. This is the last bastion of shenanigans, but before we get into more details of the new suit, we do have a limited supply drop notice for the 450 cost GM Kai ground type with the Corvette booster, and the Goof Flight type from Thunderbolt as well, both being Thunderbolt suits. Now usable at 450 cost, which is going to be interesting just because we know the Goof Flight type doesn't have necessarily the sort of maneuver armor aspect unless you're flying in the air. At the same time, I know I had a lot of fun with this. It's something that requires a lot of skill that unless you're running around. I know I'm tangenting a little bit, but it's definitely a fun suit. Same with the Corvette booster. It has some fun there, here and there, but I know that it's going to be a different ecosystem at 450, and I'm very curious to see how these guys held up. If you guys have a chance with that, let me know what you guys think in the comments. We also have a supply drop mobile suit request and step up supply drop ongoing for one of the top 10 guaranteed from the 10 consecutive supply drop. So you have Perfect, the Norn, the new FF, the 3A Zeta, Amuro Zeta, the C-Packs, the Psycho Doga, the Traversia, Nightingale, the Suppressor, Silver Bullet, and the Phoenix. I didn't vote for this, but other people did, and this is what we have. So if this is something on your list, and you got extra stuff to spare, I would consider it. Otherwise, anniversary is literally around the corner. But we do have some changes to the recycle ticket counter as followings, with the Aqua GPO1 level 2 being added, as well as the Gira Doga Kai. aka the Top Hat Doga, now available. I believe this is a 500 and this is a 550 respectively. I think actually the Aqua GBO1 is a 550, honestly. Sorry. But I played both of those before. Really cool suits in their own right. So if you don't have this, I would definitely consider that, since recycle tickets don't really hurt you as badly. But they will be available in the recycle counter for the next 2 days, all the way till the 19th. So better jump on it if you can. We do have some changes to the DP exchange counter, with the Bylorate Custom level 1 and level 2 now being available. So that's crazy. A first for the 4-star category now in DP. We also do have some changes with the situation battle. We do have the double Zeta themed one right now, and just kind of get some information on that. For the AUG or the Argama team, we have the Zeta, double Zeta. Sorry, I went a little bit out of order. Yakushiki Mark II and a GM3. And then these are, let's see, I think they're practically at their native costs. So this is going to be a first for situation battle. The Baowu does have a 650. I'm not sure if they changed anything as far as the stat goes. Probably not, but there's no remarks on either end there. But yeah, respectively, a whole bunch of different suits there. And I'm assuming, oh yeah, this is going to be on Deserted City. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, because Deserted City is kind of a narrow, long-range map in some cases. A lot of choke points here and there. Going to be pretty interesting considering neither side has stealth. So yeah, will be interesting. For the Neo, I'm guessing Neo Zeon, yeah, Neo Zeon. So first week, GM3 is a reward, and then you get the Gallus J on the second week with various DP stuff as well. So, jumping into our main event here, as I mentioned before, this is a 2-star 400 cost raid usable on ground space. This is a variation of the EZ8 that was modified on the front lines and then was further customized for space combat. And then remodified into a high mobility custom, which reduced a lot of weight, hence why it looks very, how do I say, fragile, with more emphasis on mobility, being light. Also, because there wasn't enough output from its generator, it's running around with a modified spray gun, which is probably the first of its kind, because it's, I think in a lot of different Gundam media illustrations, they do have that variation of the spray gun available versus, say, the regular stock GM running around with it, and then the beam gun that the GM command uses in space. But it is really cool. This also has a thruster binders control system, which allows it to essentially, basically it's kind of like the Sinanju skill, where it's able to shoot its primary weapon while doing high-speed movement, and it also increases the attack power and mobility. It does increase the thruster J while the skill is active, and then once a certain amount of time has passed, it's no longer reactivated. So it's kind of like a version of the, as I mentioned, skill that Sinanju has, and it's kind of like Exam in a way too. But yeah, once that's done, it's done until you die. Also, it does give you a chance to get the sort of ground Federation combat suits that they have. I believe you see one of the guys in the 8th MS run it, as well as the other guys in the Southeast Asia campaign. You do get a chance to pull that if you're doing 10 pulls for it. So really cool stuff. So on to the nitty gritty. Alright folks, here we are with our brand new suit. Of course, jumping into it, has 16.5 HP, 11 and 12 in beam and ballistic, and a little more emphasis on melee resistance, which is pretty cool, I guess, especially if you're having to counter the enemy raid. It does kind of help to balance things out, and of course this does kind of seem a little more normal just because due to the lore behind the high mobility custom, I would assume its range mitigation is pretty low. Going down the line, it is a melee suit, melee raid. So of course it has a little more attention in the melee side of things with a little bit of range power. Not much, but enough to get the job done. As in the name itself, it does have a decent amount of walking speed at 135 with a high speed move of 210. A very generous thruster gauge of 70 and a decent turning speed of 63, which with consideration to a lot of the one-year war suits at this cost range, not a whole lot of suits actually turn as much as this suit does. Even like the ground variant, it's at 57 base, Grandpa's is at 60, and then this being at 63, that is pretty nuts. You even have things like the Goof Custom at 60, 57, 60. A lot of 60s here, which is really crazy. So this just turns just a little bit better, which is pretty nice. You do have a big emphasis on the close range and a little bit on the medium side, but more on the close range side as far as the custom part slots go. So if you're thinking about trying to balance this out a little bit to ensure its survivability, ensure it does the most it can, well, we'll say that your efforts might be a little bit hampered. Before I get into the nitty-gritty parts as far as its actual weaponry, one thing to note that I want to check out here is you do have cooling and propellant as your first two enhancements. The cooling being probably one of the best things you could throw on there so far, just because it does kind of help with purposely overheating your thrusters. Typically when you do overheat it, it's like a, long 7 seconds for some people. But that 3% definitely helps kind of cut cuts it down quite a bit. Even if it doesn't seem like a whole lot, it does help quite a bit. And then of course the propellant tank does kind of raise that thruster gauge cap a little bit, so you don't feel like, man, I'm constantly hitting that ceiling pretty quick. Of course, unlike some other suits, this does have complex expansion at the 3rd step instead of the 4th. And, it being a melee suit, it does get its lovely 5 power there. And then you also get another cooling support system on top of that, so for a total of 6%, which is definitely something useful for something that relies on its boost so much. But anyways, jumping into the primary weapons of things, we do have a Spray Gun 2 added to this suit with base power 600, 14% heat rate at 225 effective meters, half-second cooldown time between shots or bursts. I think this is a burst shot weapon. 10-second overheat time, which is actually not bad. So it almost feels like in certain cases you might want to purposely overheat just to kind of close in and put some pressure on people. And then it has 2 seconds to focus, which is pretty nuts considering otherwise. I'm very curious to see like how much heat it builds when you do focus fire with this. If it's anything like 50%, and as far as like the standard beam rifle heat rate that we're so accustomed to at like say 350, 300, 400 costs, etc. This just kind of evens out that sort of potential disadvantage it might have with this modified spray gun. Going into the primary melee weapon for the high mobility custom, this EZ8 also has a base power 2000, just like its I think it's ground type. 2-second swings with a 2.5-second charge time for its heavy attack. In both cases, you cannot switch the weapons out, so this is the stuff that it has to stick with. So that's good, I guess. Jumping into the sub-weapon category, we have 35mm Vulcans in its head. Base power 80, 40 shots, 175 meters, effective range with a 9-second reload time. I believe these are pretty standard, 5% stun buildup. Nothing super extraordinary, but definitely they do their job. Now, going into the Twin Saber mode, this does have a little bit more output with 2.5 seconds cooldowns between its swings there. Based off what I've been able to glimpse, this has sort of like a BD2 swing almost on its downswing. But either way, we love the Twin Sabers, we love the Single Saber. It can do work. Jumping into the shopping list of skills, you got some relatively normal stuff that you would expect out of a raid, like Assault Booster, of course. This also has MA2, Maneuver Armor 2, and Force Injector 2. Surprisingly enough for a raid, only 2 swings. So that's kind of weird, but, you know, I guess this is the trend of going back to not needing 3 swings, but I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised at some point if they change that around. You do have the heavy attack, as we mentioned before, as noticed by the stats in the primary melee. It also has a roll and anti-blast stabilizer. So this is going to be one of those suits that is going to be very dangerous up close, and not likely to get stunned by getting caught by other explosions outside of like bazookas and stuff, you know, such as like other suits and everything. The binary control system, as we mentioned earlier, that's your high-speed movement thing that allows you to use your primary weapon while boosting, but it also increases the high-speed movement thruster drain. So I can see people boosting up the, well, booster. Wow, dad jokes already. But yeah, basically increasing that thruster cap to kind of mitigate the binary controls, or maybe even throwing some cooling stuff too. Who knows? You also have a special back-on buffer that reduces damage by 30%, because this does increase the silhouette for the Ez8 with the big giant stuff on its back. I mean, look at this. That just gives you a big bullseye on your back a little bit. So you do have a means of mitigating that, but no leg buffers on this one here in comparison to this one here, which doesn't have leg buffers either, nor does it have anti-blast stabilizers. So definitely something that is a very stark contrast. But at the same time, when you look at the stats for resistances, it's pretty much very similar to the ground Ez8 version, even at base value. Granted, it's not as up-armored as the Ez8 vanilla-wise, but we do have some similarities in terms of essentially resistances. Even the base HP is about the same too, 16k versus 16.5. So very cool, very eager, and also has that neat Sniper 2 scope there, and essentially rabbit ears as far as space antenna configuration. So this is actually a lot cooler when you're comparing the two, even though this is supposed to be stripped down, less armor, but based on like the vanilla stats of the 400 variant, which is level 2, and then this, not accounting my modifications, very similar things about the suit. And I can definitely say it's gonna be interesting to see this pretty common around at 400, even though I know a lot of people might be saving up for anniversary. This looks like a lot of fun, and looks really cool. With that said, that concludes our recap of tonight's banner suit, the RX-79Ez8 High Mobility Custom from G Generation. I want to know what you guys think, what you've seen. If you guys are thinking about pulling for this really cool, unique looking 8th MS team suit from G Generation, and also part of, I think, the there was like a radio drama relating to the 8th MS team. I know some folks out there are really big fans of the design. I think it looks pretty cool and unique looking for a one-year war suit. But more importantly, what is on your guys' mind when you think about this suit? Is it something worth pulling, even though it's a 2-star? Do you think it's going to shake up 400? I don't know. I'm very curious what you guys think, what your opinions are. And feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this, please don't hesitate to hit that like, subscribe button. Definitely helps us out. And until next time, guys, I will see you all on the next video. Take care.